Hey, what's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching my second edition of Gamescript for the Super Bowl. This time around, I have Spread Astaire on with me, and we're going to break down the game. We're looking at Kansas City Chiefs versus San Francisco 49ers. We got a 47.5-point total with the Chiefs at 2.5-point favorites, and I've given a few of these Super Bowl shows so far. You're going to want to subscribe to the YouTube channel and check those out. I'm at 496 subscribers right now. My goal was to hit 500 by the end of the season. So we're almost there. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure to hit like on the video, and I'll get another show out before the end of the week. Looking for about 20 likes to get that out. And yeah, Spread, what's going on, man? Good to have you on. And what are your thoughts here on the Super Bowl and everything?
I'm excited to break this down. And a lot of time in handicapping, we find ourselves in familiar situations. We talked about it in the divisional round, right? Rest versus rust is something that we're going to measure every single year, right? So while every game is new, we're constantly refining our processes. There are still some of these old familiar tropes that we're dealing with. And I feel that prevailing one this week is the better team, statistically, depth-wise, is the San Francisco 49ers coming out of the NFC. However, the Kansas City Chiefs have the wild card, the eraser, so to speak, in Patrick Mahomes, where it kind of upsets the apple cart and you kind of throw all your modeling out because you look at what the guy can do. And I've talked about it on this show before, but he thrives under pressure. When they were struggling to get out of the gate against Buffalo and they fell down 10-6, I keep talking about seeing him on the sideline. He looked happy and excited for the opportunity, right? He wasn't stressing out. So we have the one team that the statistics are going to favor and who have probably, better 52 on 52. But when you add that 53rd player, and I'm talking about Mahomes, and this is not a slight against Brock Purdy. You say this in every matchup he goes against to. He kind of throws the apple cart out. So I'm excited to see it. I was also surprised, you mentioned the line moving to 2.5. I thought the Chiefs would be so popular with Mahomes having already won the Super Bowl and being the biggest star in the game. But no, the 49ers are continuing to take money. And is that based off the popularity of the team? Or are there sharp bettors in there moving that line? We'll find that out on Sunday. But there's a lot to talk about, Simon, and I can't wait to see the ways that you're approaching this game because even with my breakdown, what I just said, it still doesn't say who's going to make these catches, who's going to be making the big runs, right, and who's going to be at the top of the fantasy leaderboard.
Yeah, for sure. And I've had some good breakdowns with I had one with Jordan Vanek of the 33rd team. I did that one a couple days ago. You're going to want to check that out on the YouTube page. And I also did a solo one about a week ago after doing my initial Super Bowl research. I like to do an initial one before I read anybody else's stuff or anything like that. So I'm just purely going off of analytics and some of the stats that I'm seeing. And I put that one out a week ago Friday. So got 2 shows up already that you can check out to get different perspectives on the game. And then, of course, on this one, we're going to get spreads perspective from a betting standpoint, which is always super valuable. And, we'll take a look and we'll dig into some of these matchups. We're going to do it a little bit differently than Spread and I normally do it. We're going to go in the Roto Grinders lineup HQ, and we're going to kind of build a player pool and then build our projections based on guys that we like and matchups we like and stuff like that. So I'm going to do what I normally do when I start off with building in an optimizer. And I've already done 150 lineups based on the base projections that I have here. And what I can see from judging on this and Spread, give me your thoughts on this. I see KC having a 48% lean on the 4-2 builds versus San Francisco with a 3% lean. I don't think that that's going to be anywhere near what it ends up. But it's interesting to see KC 4-2 builds so much favored versus San Francisco 4-2 builds.
One of the reasons that's interesting to me is because San Francisco has so many more options. When we're looking at our KC build, it seems who the target shares are going to so much more easier. Whereas San Francisco, there's 4 men that could potentially have a big game and be at the top of the leaderboard. So um, maybe that's the reason why people are going there. Maybe because it is a little easier to define. But yeah, I'm a little surprised by that too.
It's funny how that's shifted throughout the year because Kansas City used to be a pain in the ass to figure out who to put in your lineups because Rice hadn't stepped up at that point. Kelce was struggling in the beginning of the year, and Pacheco was splitting carries with a couple other running backs. So it was like really difficult to figure out Kansas City on showdown slates. And since then, it's become super easy because we've seen Rice kind of taking that dominant wide receiver position. And obviously, Kelce has found new life in the playoffs. And, Patrick Mahomes, while he is a great quarterback, he has not been a good fantasy quarterback this year. And we can kind of see that in just looking at his what do you call it? One second here. If we look at his game log for the season, we can see he did not have a whole bunch of weeks over 20 DraftKings points. So he's struggled as far as trying to put up fantasy points. But like Spread said, he's the great equalizer. Like he can take a matchup that looks bad for the Chiefs and turn it into a win. And he's done that a couple times with Buffalo and Baltimore. They got Miami too because Miami had some struggles with their defense. They lost a few defensive players, and then they had the weather situation in Kansas City that week. But Buffalo was pretty healthy, and Baltimore was pretty healthy, relative to the point of the season. And Kansas City got in their heads and handled both those teams pretty handily. And now they face San Francisco. Oh, last spread, who is favored in this game. And San Francisco has been a juggernaut all season long. They've struggled a little bit recently with the basically the past couple playoff games. I think that might have more to do with rest and just a little bit of rustiness, maybe like in these playoff games. But if we look at Brock Purdy in the last couple playoff games, he had 15 versus Green Bay, and he had 18 DraftKings points versus Detroit. So Purdy hasn't been lighting it up exactly in the playoffs. He's had a few games this season where he struggled, but for the most part, he's been pretty good. He's led the league in a bunch of metrics, quarterback metrics, as far as efficiency and performing under pressure and performing under different circumstances. So Purdy has had a really good season this year. He was an MVP candidate. I think he probably killed that off with that game versus Baltimore. I think the Baltimore game is what pretty much locked it in for Lamar Jackson. Obviously, we haven't had the MVP announced, but it's looking like Lamar Jackson is very likely to get that award. But Purdy was in talks up until that game. So, he's had a phenomenal year, and he has had some really good fantasy weeks. And, he's kind of proven this season that he's more than a game manager. But as people like to kind of cling on to that narrative, that's going to give us an advantage if we see any type of a discount in ownership. And I'm going to take a look right now at what his ownership is looking like. I'm seeing in the captain at about 6%. I'm seeing him in the total ownership at about 43% versus Patrick Mahomes, which I see 60%. I think that Purdy can definitely outscore Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has the name value, obviously, but Purdy has the stats this season. And it is a good matchup spread for Purdy against Kansas City because despite the defense being really good, as Purdy has been performing well in several categories. He has a 56% completion percentage against pressure. He has about a 70% completion percentage against the blitz. Kansas City's blitzing at 33% of the time. That's a pretty high rate. And he has a 129 passer rating against man coverage, and Kansas City is running man coverage at 52% of the time. So I see a lot of good on paper matchup things there with Purdy. What are your thoughts on Purdy there?
I think he should do fairly well in this matchup, Simon. Some of the problems that he's had this season have been due to weather. And even if it is raining in Vegas right now, they will be playing indoors. So I think that he's a player you need to look at because I think that he will excel in both game scripts. If the 49ers win it, they're not going to win it without a strong performance from Brock Purdy. On the other hand, it's hard to see the 49ers getting completely shut down here, right? Like I won't be shocked if the Chiefs win if it was something like 26-7 or 27-6 and the Niners offense couldn't get anything going. I would be surprised. So I feel that Purdy is one of the safest plays on the board because I feel like he gets there for you in almost every script.
Yeah, and spread. While you were gone, I was talking about his ownership, and I'm seeing ownership for Purdy at around 40% versus 60% for Mahomes. Mahomes does not have as good a matchup even on paper, with him struggling against against pressure. He's been not necessarily struggling, but he has a 45% completion percentage against pressure, which is middling, and the opposition pressures at 31% of the time. We have Patrick Mahomes has a 66% completion percentage against the blitz, but San Francisco doesn't blitz that much. They're blitzing at around 21% of the time. So, there's some things with Patrick Mahomes with the receivers that he has, because if we're looking at Rashee Rice, he should be pretty much shadowed by Ward, wouldn't you think, for the most part, spread? And on top of that, San Francisco is strong in the middle of the field. So Rashee Rice doesn't seem to have the best matchup, and he is one of the go-to guys for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, one thing that you have to say about the 49ers defense, however, just from watching, and this might not show up in the statistics, if their pass rush doesn't get home, their defense isn't what it used to be. They've taken some losses in the secondary over the past couple of years, and I think a lot of times those the success rates of the corners are raised by the fact that Bosa is consistently getting pressure there. So that's something to look for early on if you're live betting, how well that 49ers pass rush is doing. That being said, I'm trying to think if they shadow a lot. I can't. They run more of a zone, don't they? I don't think he'll get shadowed.
So,
I don't think that he'll get shadowed. I'm trying to think back of 49ers matchups. Like, they didn't shadow CD, did they, in that big game against Dallas?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, I know that they run man coverage. San Francisco runs man coverage at 33% of the time, which is a pretty low man coverage percentage.
And that actually completely, they only run man on their bigger blitzes, so I don't know if the man is going to be fair when we're talking about the corners, because when they blitz like that, if the blitz gets home, then it's going to be a great play for the defense and the metrics and everything. But if they don't get home and they pick up that blitz, that's where the Niners have really struggled this season, giving up plays. So I'm sorry, I'm going off the top of my head, and I probably should have gone back and looked at ones like that. The reason I chose Dallas, though, I feel even though their secondary weapons are better, I think it's a nice one where Rashee Rice is getting pretty close to that CeeDee Lamb style target share. So that was why maybe I would look at that one specifically to see. But off the top of my head, I do not remember CD being shadowed. I remember him making catches against multiple different corners.
Yeah. So Rashee Rice, like I think that the way that San Francisco's been defending the middle of the field, like if Rashee Rice is running, let me check how many percentage he's running from the slot here. He is running 49% of his routes from the slot, so just about half of his routes from the slot, which is, yeah, I mean, I think that's where he's going to struggle. On the outside is where San Francisco has been vulnerable, and the outside receivers that Patrick Mahomes has to throw to, or at least the guys who've traditionally been running outside for the most part this season, are MVS and Justin Watson. So, I mean, like the weaknesses of San Francisco's defense don't align with the strengths of Kansas City's offense, which is why I think that San Francisco has a better matchup here, as far as like as far as that's concerned. But on the other side, if you look at San Francisco's offense versus Kansas City's defense. I was talking about it with Jordan Vanek yesterday. He was talking about how George Kittle is going to have the worst guy covering him. I mean, on the Super Bowl. So George Kittle has a really good matchup. And then Deebo Samuel, the Chiefs have been allowing, there's a stat that I've been talking about like the past few weeks where we've been targeting slot receivers against Kansas City because the Chiefs have been allowing about 52% of receptions to slot receivers or receivers lined up in the slot. So I think that that's an advantage for Deebo Samuel. I think the guy who's probably going to struggle the most on the Kansas City side is on the San Francisco side is going to be Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk is probably going to see a lot of Snead. So I would be nervous about Brandon Aiyuk in this game. But what are your thoughts there on that on those receivers spread?
I think it's interesting, and we talk about how Shanahan's going to approach this game. A lot of pressure on him, of course, getting to this game so many times, yet falling short. So, when you talk about Aiyuk, if he basically allows that and says, hey, okay, fine, we'll take your best corner out. I have all these other matchup issues with Samuel, McCaffrey, and Kittle, right? Just if Aiyuk wasn't on the team, that's still a pretty good array of weapons to work with, right?
Yeah.
But now you have Aiyuk taking away the best player. Is he going to be fine with that and surge it towards the other players? Or is he going to say, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that. I'm going to move Aiyuk around in these formations and make sure he gets the ball, because if there's anyone who I could see him even giving him some handoffs or running some screens for him, ways to basically get him involved and not simply seed that matchup. So I personally lean towards the second option, which is why I think Aiyuk might be a little more valuable than people let on. And the idea is that they're saying, oh, he's going to be covering against Snead. First of all, Snead is good, but he's not Deion Sanders in 1991, right? This isn't Heisman winner Charles Woodson in his prime here overlocking up people. So even if he is going against Snead, that doesn't mean that Aiyuk is not going to be able to make receptions. Secondly, just because of the stubbornness, the strategy involved, and what I think would be like a moral victory for the team, I think Shanahan's also going to specifically scheme certain plays to get him away from Snead and involved in the game. So I think Aiyuk is actually a sneaky good play because for the reasons I think that people are going to shy away, that's where I think we're getting some value here because he might not be in as many lineups as we expect.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think a lot of people are probably thinking along the same way as I am on Aiyuk with having the more difficult matchup and being the guy to maybe fade. Let me take a look real quick.
I think you're right. If he just seeds that, because we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Where coaches will say, that's fine. You can take away our number one, especially when they commit to doubling him, and they'll work other players the whole game. That's why you see with certain players, especially in fantasy, and I know my fantasy-only friends that don't really do betting and don't. How did he get 11 catches one day and the next week he only has 3? Well, one week they decided to let him go one-on-one, and the next week he saw double coverage the whole game. And they didn't force it. Why don't they throw it to my favorite guy? Well, his quarterback's a good quarterback. He's not going to throw it into double coverage. Like, I'm sorry. But it almost feels that a lot of times in fantasy, the week to week, the production is decided not by the offensive coordinator of the player that you play, but by the defensive coordinator of who you face.
Right. And I see Aiyuk and Samuel at basically identical ownership, which is surprising to me. They're identical in both, total ownership and captain ownership. They're both. I give the captain ownership. They're about 7% each in the captain ownership. So, I see that, and I already liked Samuel a ton. So I lean Samuel more in that matchup. I think that he's probably I won't say safer, but to me he feels a little bit safer than Aiyuk this week. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're equal. I would think a lot of
Yeah.
people would like Samuel more because even though I just made an impassioned plea for Aiyuk,
Yeah.
for the sake of content, just so people of the show don't just hear this and write him off, and then you know why you should consider him. I think if I'm doing one build, single entry, and I only get one player, I like Samuel more. I'm surprised they're even. Do you think it's just because Ayuk's been just so much better statistically this year, while Deebo Samuel's been more of like, if we talk about it best ball terms, a spike week player?
I'd say so, and I think too. Like if we look at Deebo, his last few weeks, and this is obviously because of injury and various reasons, but he had 17 DraftKings points against Detroit. He had 4 DraftKings points against Green Bay. That's the game he got. I think he got hurt against Green Bay pretty early, and then obviously in Week 18 he didn't play a full game. He had 5 DraftKings points that week. But Deebo's kind of been up and down. I think he's getting a injury prone association, and I think it's dumbing people down to the value of Deebo Samuel, honestly, because Deebo's a stud, man. And then you look at Aiyuk. Let's see what he's done recently. He hasn't really done too much either recently. So I don't know why the projection is calling for these guys to be more evenly split. But maybe it's because there hasn't been a whole lot of DFS Super Bowl content yet. I know a lot of people are doing it towards the end of the week. I've been doing it basically since last week, and I've personally been favoring Deebo. So I don't know where other people are going to be talking up. Maybe people are talking up Aiyuk more. So I really don't know why it's even. I think that Deebo just has such a superior matchup, at least on paper. Depending on how things work out with how they run the defense and everything. But yeah, I would assume that Deebo would have a much better game in this game, personally.
Yeah,
But
well, there you have it, and I guess it makes sense why we have close to even ownership because I think that some of us are more tempted by Deebo's versatility. But what's the old joke? Team don't watch the games. The guys that just run the numbers, they're going to favor Aiyuk. So
yeah, that makes sense. So, Spread, what I'm doing here, just to let the audience know, I've basically excluded all my players. I excluded them all, and I'm going to go through this excluded list and just kind of plug in the guys that are worth keeping in the player pool. And I'm getting down here to the deep water here, like where the water starts to get a little bit of cold, and you're worried a jellyfish or something is gonna sting you. I am looking at these names, and they're getting sketchier and sketchier. I like Juwan Jennings. Like, I'm going to keep him in the player pool. I don't like Juwan Jennings, but I think he's worth keeping in the player pool. I'm going to keep the Chiefs D in the player pool. Valdez Scantling, I'm going to keep him in there. Elijah Mitchell, though, this is where it starts to get a little bit questionable. I think personally, I keep Elijah Mitchell out of the player pool. But what do you think there, Spread?
Well, how many contests are you entering?
Probably like 20.
I would keep him in.
Okay, so let's leave him in. Let's leave in Justin Watson because he's the other. Yeah,
At
go
his
ahead.
price point, what does he need to pay off? Elijah Mitchell to pay off
Elijah.
his price.
I think any guy is going to need to get at least 10 points.
He
I
can do
think if we
that.
don't,
He can get a touchdown.
yeah, if we don't see a guy getting potential to at least score 10 points, then he's not worth having in the player
Here's
pool.
why I say you keep Mitchell in, right?
Mhm.
McCaffrey gets the big play. He gets knocked out on the 1 or 2,
Yeah.
right? Or it's just a huge play. It could be to someone else, Aiyuk, a pass interference, right? But they had McCaffrey go out. Well, he's a little winded. We'll bring Mitchell in. They're not concerned about who's getting what stats right now. I think that Mitchell, because of the goal line capability, I'm not saying he's a lock for every lineup, but I think that if you're going for 20 or more, you have to keep him in the pool.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's leave him in the pool. Sky Moore, I am not high on Sky Moore. He just came off IR. He's active. Looks like he's going to play in the game unless they make him inactive at the last minute or something. But I think if we're going to be leaving guys out of the player pool, maybe Sky Moore is a guy. Well, maybe we plug him in and we just leave him at his projection and see if how much percentage they force him in. Uh, Thoughts on Noah Gray spread?
It, I'm sorry, this is bad radio while I'm thinking on the air. I don't know. What do you think? Because I just hate to take people out, but I can't imagine too many lineups where we have them in. But he comes back to, we talk about it, right, when we're dumpster diving and we run those 5-1s and we just say, hey, we just need someone here, and if he scores any points, I mean, I guess he's alive. At his price tag, what does he need?
So he's 1.8K. So he would probably, I mean, it's the same thing. Like he needs
Points?
probably about 10 points.
10 points?
Yeah.
Then take him
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Because I think, okay, let's take him out.
If it's he's not getting, I mean, obviously there's a chance he's getting 10 points. I was thinking at that low, you were thinking he only needed 3 or 4 points because you were going to get a McCaffrey, Deebo, Aiyuk stack or something, to make up for it. Okay,
Right.
Who's next?
So if we got McCole Hardman has been pretty much erased from the offense. I think with these guys like McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney, we're dealing with McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, like all those scrubby guys who are kind of on that same level who've really struggled this season. But you never know, like because last year's Super Bowl we saw Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore score touchdowns. So anything can happen in the Super Bowl.
You have to leave Toney in your player pool.
All right, let's leave him
Now,
in.
if you manually want to take him out when you're looking at the builds, that's fine, but I don't think we can exclude him.
Yeah. No,
Of anyone that's left on your screen right now, he by far has the most potential. And in fact, I'd probably choose him 90% of the time. The second player that I think that you need to have in there, if we're doing it by order, is that juice check that you're on right now. It got blurry for me. You have to have him in there. You can't take him out.
Yeah, I think so.
Because if you want to do those huge builds, that's the type of dumpster dive you're looking for there with juice check. Another one, maybe 2-3 catches. I mean, your 10-point threshold makes it pretty easy for me to take all these guys off. But when I'm just looking at who I'd like left, I'd probably like Ray, then Hardman, then Gray, then let's just take CEH out. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't think we need CEH, especially if Jerick McKinnon is going to be coming back. I think that McKinnon basically pretty much cancel out Edwards-Helaire. I think with Richie James is interesting to me because I just think that the Chiefs have been trying to get that one guy like a Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore or someone like that to perform. Richie James is the only one that's really not screwed up. So I just think that Richie James is going to be in play this week, and he's probably a guy you want to leave in your player pool. Now for the exercise that I'm doing now, I'm putting those other guys in too, just because we're going to build 150 lineups, but we're not going to it's very unlikely that any of those dudes that I just put in are going to make it unless we adjust their projection. Like Juszczyk, I'm going to probably adjust his projection. Let's get into that now. I'm going to add Richie James and leave those other guys out that we currently see. As far as captain plays, let's put McCaffrey. I don't like Mahomes as a captain option. What do you think of Kelce spread?
Yeah, he has to be a captain option.
Let's see. Deebo, good captain option. Let's see. Pacheco. And if we're putting in, Kittle, I like as a captain. Any other captains you're seeing here that you'd like to just throw back in the player pool?
I think you got them all.
Yeah, like any thoughts on Purdy as a potential captain or Aiyuk?
I think those are all viable.
Okay, let's get them in there. We'll adjust the.
I like all your top four, and then that's it.
Okay, cool. So let's take a look at what we got here. Now I'm going to go into the flex position spread. We can take a look at these guys and what their projection is, and we can see if we want to bump it up or take it down. So the first one that I see that I don't like is Patrick Mahomes at 23 DraftKings points. I can picture him being more of an 18 DraftKings point performance in this game, just based on his recent performances and like the matchup that I think he has. But what do you think there on Patrick Mahomes? What would you project him for?
Yeah, I kind of like Mahomes here. One thing we know about him is that once the stakes get higher, his penchant for running the football goes up, and so that's going to give us some opportunities here. And I think that since he has that chance for those red zone carries and the chance to get in the end zone, I like where his projection's at right now. I wouldn't lower it.
Okay, so let's leave that. Travis Kelce, we have him at about 20 DraftKings points. To me, that feels like a safe bet, given that I think that they're going to lean on him more than anyone. But what do you think there?
I like Kelce a lot. That's one of my favorite players to run as captain. Honestly, my main concern there would be, is it just too chalky? But in my mind, I mean, as soon as things get rough, we know that's where he's going to look. And we talked earlier about how the 49ers pretty much only use man on their heavier blitzes. And who's better at finding those holes in the zone than Kelce, right? And that's kind of where I don't want to say the legend, right? But how a bunch of these highlights start is these two, the play breaking down. And as great as Andy Reid is, there's some backyard football going on where Kelce finds a hole in the zone, throws his hand up, Mahomes makes the throw on the move. So I love Kelce as captain, and my only concern there is that it's too chalky, and that if I'm correct here, that I still need to be absolutely perfect, because so many other people will agree with me having him in the captain spot, especially with the potential narrative around his famous girlfriend.
Yeah, that's a good point. As far as where we want him on the hierarchy, he's at 19.6 DraftKings points. He's right under Brock Purdy and obviously Patrick Mahomes. Now, do we think that Kelce outperforms 20 DraftKings points? Do you want to bump him up so that he is more heavily favored in the optimizer, or do you want to keep him as is?
They have him at 20 already?
Yeah.
It seems pretty good, don't you think?
I think so. Because San Francisco's given up 14 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So if we give Kelce that premium bump based on what we know he's capable of, I think that makes sense for his projection. One projection that I don't like is Rashee Rice. He's projected at 19.6, basically the same score as Travis Kelce. To me, Rashee Rice, I see him, I'd bump him way down to like 15 or something.
I agree there. I'm surprised that they have them the same. As the stakes get higher, there's two things that we know Mahomes is going to do: run more and target Kelce more.
Yeah.
And both those are plus EV. Both those are winning strategies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
yeah, bumping him down to 15 is right in line where the average DraftKings points a game that San Francisco is allowing in general. We do know that, obviously Rashee Rice is going to be running some outside routes, but I think it's going to be a tough game for Rashee Rice as far as matchup and stuff. So I don't think I'd be comfortable bumping him up much more than 15 DraftKings points. So basically, our first move here is we're bumping Rashee Rice down to 15 DraftKings points. Isiah Pacheco is next. He's projected at 17.67 DraftKings points. To me, that feels pretty comfortable. But what do you think there, Spread?
Mm, it depends. If we're going back to how we did the show before,
Mm-hmm.
he's a one game script type of guy, right?
Yeah,
He's the Chiefs win game script type of guy.
right.
So as far as adjusting projections, I think it depends on your script. I talked about how Purdy's kind of script proof, right? Pacheco is
Right.
the exact opposite in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Pacheco is so script dependent. If you don't get the script right, you're going to miss your projection on him.
Yeah,
But I feel fairly safe in saying I would be very surprised if the Chiefs got blown out and Pacheco had a big day. So,
right.
um,
So
which way are you favoring as far as scripts?
I think that San Francisco wins this game. I
Okay.
think it's going to be so. Okay, so let's try to look at it like this, Spread. Like, you think that you like San Francisco too, right? In this game.
I like Kansas City more.
Oh, you like Kansas City more? Okay. So
Not a
let's
lot. I think
yeah.
that the teams are pretty close, and I'm just surprised that I'm getting this much on the money line for a fairly even game. I mean, I
Yeah.
talked about it at the top, right? That we just have that one X factor that to me is kind of hard to mathematically figure out, right? How do you
Yeah.
model a guy like Mahomes that just rises to the pressure, right? It's like modeling
Right.
Brady. A lot of years they came in and they were not good statistically at all, and they got
Yep.
wins over better teams that had much better net ratings. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my concern with betting the 49ers there. It just seems like it's hard to bet against the man who's kind of head and shoulders and kind of has taken that mantle from Brady, right, as
Right.
the undisputed best quarterback in the game right now.
Yeah, and he has a lot of those, like, just like Brady, he's able to kind of psych out his opponents. Like opponents when they go into these big games against Patrick Mahomes, they can change their entire game plan to a detrimental game plan just because
Right.
they're afraid of Patrick Mahomes.
Hmm.
And that's a big thing that benefited Brady. And I think, Spread, I've done, like, the past couple shows that I've done, I've had more of a lean to San Francisco. So I'm glad that you have a lean towards Kansas City, because let's try to, like, just go with your lean and figure out based on that where we should bump or lower these guys to. So in your game script where
So
you
yeah, if we're
envision,
doing my complete game strip,
yeah,
I would try and bump it to make Kelsey the captain.
okay,
I make it so Mahomes is a lock. You grab a little Pacheco, right?
yep,
Um, and then see, then you got to decide whether or not you want to go Rice and dumpster diving or you want to go more balanced. And I'd probably try to go more balanced there. But those are the three that I think Chiefs win game script is those three. I'm a little bit interested in the Chiefs defense because I think that if my script comes correct, Purdy will throw at least one interception and potentially even more. I know that Tyler's already bet Purdy to throw an interception for us. That was one of his favorite props right off the bat. Now, that being said, I also think that Tyler could win his bet and the 49ers could win the game.
yeah,
I don't think that he needs to be perfect for them to win. But that's why I also have some interest in the Chiefs defense if you go a little more balanced. But to me, with a Chiefs win build, I love the Kelce captain, and then Mahomes and Pacheco build it from there.
Well, let's drop Purdy down to 18 then,
Okay.
uh, because that way, like that's more in line with his performance, average performances lately. And I think that if he's going to struggle and Kansas City's defense is going to be kind of doing well in this game, then it makes a lot of sense to have Purdy bumped down from his projection. And maybe the Chiefs' defense we want to bump up. Like, do you think that what kind of game do you think the Chiefs' defense has?
I think San Francisco will be able to move the ball, so for them to pay off, it's going to have to be through turnovers.
Okay. So let's say what, 2 turnovers? So maybe we bump them up to 7 or 8 points. What do you think there, spread?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, let's bump them up to 8 just to get them, get pretty decent exposure. Now, if we look at Samuel and Aiyuk, they're both projected at that 16 and 15 DraftKings points. I think one of those guys we got to bump down if we think that the Chiefs defense is going to be successful here. Which guy do you think that we should bump down? And I think we probably have to bump him down maybe a significant amount if we're leaning on one of these specific receivers maybe to favor.
I think you got to take down Aiyuk. I think if the 49ers are successful, it goes off what we talked about earlier in the show. Snead shuts down Aiyuk. Kittle has an all right performance, and it really becomes the Deebo and McCaffrey show. And from there, they're by kind of shortening their playing field, so to speak, they're able to keep those guys in check. So I think Aiyuk would be the biggest one. McCaffrey's so tough because he does well in both scripts. Because if the 49ers get the lead, he's going to see a heavy dose of you know what? And the other thing is he's almost blowout proof. Against Detroit, they were still running him down 14.
Yeah.
So actually, he's kind of blowout proof. I put him there kind of with Kelce, where I almost want to run it back with him almost every time now. I just don't know if I can afford that.
Yeah.
But he's really tough to leave out because I don't see any scenario where he doesn't get those raw points that you're probably going to need to be at the top.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think as far as Jake Moody, like he's a guy that has struggled this year. He's a rookie kicker for the San Francisco 49ers. They got him projected I see a projection at 8.5 points. I think that's way too high for him. I would take him down, like maybe he gets, I don't think any field goal attempt over 40 yards, he would necessarily make in this one, or they would necessarily trust him with. So I think if he gets like maybe one 40-yard field goal and like 2 extra points, like maybe we bump him down to about six DraftKings points. What do you think there, spread?
Yeah, my only concern with bumping down kickers is the conditions will be so much better than most of these kickers kicked in for the majority of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. But I think for the sake of what we're building, maybe we want to have less Jake Moody exposure than that Chiefs defense. So I think that makes sense to bump him at least below that Chiefs defense because we bumped them.
That's fair. I mean, when you're thinking about it in that way, I think that's fine too because for this script especially.
Yeah. And Butker, I'm pretty comfortable with 8, maybe even higher than that. But what do you think on Butker spread?
I think that's about right, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's fair. Like, I think he'll probably, he has a pretty good shot at scoring 10 plus, but for the sake of where we want to kind of go with this lineup, let's keep him at 8 for now, and then we'll see how much exposure we get to him and kind of adjust from there.
And one thing, Simon, I have less experience than you, but when I deal with optimizers, I take their word for it on the kickers. And my idea is it's so widely variant to begin with, unless you have a specific script, as in, boy, I know in this weather he's not going to be getting a lot of pro 40-yarders, or boy, I think against the Chiefs they're going to go for it on a lot of fourth downs, which I
Yeah.
don't think is the case with Shanahan. So I'm not using that one, but that's actually the one I tend to just trust them the most because it's so widely variant to begin with. I feel that our adjustments that we make on certain players, for example, Kelce going against zone, right, expecting Mahomes to rush more than usual. I feel that those adjustments are so much more based in reality, where kicker adjustments are just roll the bones and see if you crap out because there's some kicker scores are so widely variant.
Yeah, that's true. For me, it's basically comes down to, if I think that the kicker is any good,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like with Moody, my concerns with Moody, and I've had these concerns the last few weeks with him, is that he's been missing field goals throughout the season, and I think in a big spot in the Super Bowl, like we're dealing with now, I don't know that they're going to want to put too much on Jake Moody. So
Mm-hmm.
on those field goals, those long attempts where they might attempt a field goal like with a different kicker, like they would lean more towards maybe doing a either going for it or just punting it. You know what I mean? And playing the field position game. But with Moody, he's missed several kicks throughout the season. There's been times in games that depended on him kicking. I think Cleveland, they needed him to make a field goal, and he ended up missing that one and losing the game basically. So I mean, there's been moments where they needed him, and he just did not come through. And I don't think that in a high pressure situation with a rookie kicker that they're going to want to put too much on his plate. And so that's why I kind of think that 8 seems a little bit high for me based on this matchup.
Yeah, and we're really taking a lot into it. I just think, yeah,
But I
I
understand.
think Shanahan's gonna. I think Shanahan will rely on him and let him be the goat if he needs to. I don't think he's gonna be super aggressive, especially with the past failures kind of mounting on him.
Yeah,
And then watching what happened in the very game that he was coaching against Dan Campbell. So
yeah.
this will be this will be interesting. But yeah, I'm fine keeping it pretty much right where it is or getting him below both defenses.
Okay, cool. So MVS probably like the outside receivers are where San Francisco is weaker. Valdez Scantling's been the guy that they've kind of been leaning on recently, and he's made some big plays. So I think he's got a little bit more trust there. What do you think of? Do we leave him at that five? What's his projection here? 5.2. Does that seem fair to you?
Yeah, I mean he's the George R. Martin Game of Thrones, right? A Song of Fire and Ice. He's either gonna have fire or ice. There's no way he just sits at that 5, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think you can ignore him. So I say leave
Yeah.
him at 5 and roll the dice when he comes up. But
Yeah.
um, because he's either gonna make a huge catch or drop a huge catch.
Yeah. I mean,
But
that's exactly right.
I could say I'll bet you there's a time that he's wide open and he has a chance to make a play.
Yeah. I think you nailed it there. Now, Justin Watson is a guy that Mahomes has turned to at points in the season. He's had some big weeks, but what do you think on Watson? Like right now, I have him projected at right around the same as Valdez Scantling. Is there a lean that you
I would
prefer
rather have
between those guys, or
MVS,
do
so
you just look to
I would
optimize or
bump
do a
up
spin?
MVS or drop Watson so MVS shows up
I
more
think
often.
Let's see. So okay, so you think just leave him at the same
I
projection?
would change it to make sure that MVS gets in your lineups more often than Watson.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. Freaking for some reason, the stupid computer, like Siri, will randomly start talking to me, and I don't know if that came across on the
Yeah, I
feed or
heard a
whatever.
little
But
bit, but
yeah, so let's. What do you think? Like maybe bump him down to. He's about 600 cheaper than Scantling, So I think to prevent him from getting in our lineups, we probably have to bump him down to about 3.5 points.
I'm completely fine keeping him out of our lineup, so let's do that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He's the proverbial, if he beats us, he beats us.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think he's kind of like a rotational guy too. Like if I have, like a few lineups with Scantling in it, maybe I swap Scantling out for Watson on a few of those lineups or something like that. Now, Noah Gray, what do you want? Because he's projected pretty high too. He's at 4.5 DraftKings points, and he has a 1.8K salary. Do we think that Noah Gray outperforms Valdez Scantling? And if we don't, then we're going to have to probably bump him down to about like 3 DraftKings points around that range.
I hate to say it, but boy, he's tougher. I think that's a tougher call there.
Yeah.
But just because I think MVS has more end zone potential, let's rank MVS higher.
Okay. So let's bump him down to 3 DraftKings points because he's got 1.8 salary. That'll get more exposure to Gray than Watson, probably based on their salaries. Let's see, Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, like San Francisco matchup against Kansas City, they're allowing the most receptions to slot receivers relative to the other receivers that Kansas City's been allowing receptions to. Juwan Jennings, he runs the majority of his routes from the slot. They have him projected, though, at 4.5 DraftKings points. He's at 4K. What are your thoughts there with Juwan Jennings? You probably do you want to lower him so we don't get much exposure to him, or do we want to maybe take him out of the player pool completely, or what do you think their spread?
I think we can leave him in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as his projection at 4.48, I think we can probably just leave that there because he's at 4K, so he's pretty expensive. If we start to see that we're getting too much exposure to him, then we can kind of play with his projection from there. But for now, let's just kind of leave that. Use check would be our next guy. Now, I like use check. I was looking at the history between him and Kansas City, and he's been getting 4 games, right? In 4 games that they've played against each other, use check scored 3 touchdowns. And in those 4 games against Kansas City, he has 4 targets, basically averaging a game. So, if he's got 4 targets in this game, I think he can get at least like 2 receptions for maybe like 30 yards or something like that. Like he could potentially score 5 DraftKings points. If he scores a touchdown, bump him up to 11. But what do you think on use check there, spread?
Yeah, I like use check too. And
Yeah.
We talk about if Kansas City or they just allow Aiyuk to become the decoy, he's going to be one of those players that benefits. So I do like him a lot as well.
Okay. Do we want to bump him up? He's $800. So if we bump him up to 6 DraftKings points, we'll get a ton of exposure to him.
Do we want to do that though, or do we want to just leave it where it is?
I
When you have
wouldn't.
those lower guys and you just bump them 1 point, it jams them in almost every lineup.
Right. Let's see where he lands for us at his current, because he's
Yeah.
currently at 2.5. So at $800, he should get in a decent amount at that projection. Now these other guys, Richie James, Elijah Mitchell, guys like that, I'm comfortable leaving them as is, and we just kind of see like where they land on our first build. What do you think their spread?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's run it. Let's see what happens.
Okay. All right, let's run and see what we get. So we're hoping to get mainly Kelce, Mahomes, and Pacheco, and McCaffrey. Those are the 4 guys that we want the most exposure to. We'll see where that takes us. Hopefully, we get some Deebo exposure there. I like Kittle as well. So we'll just kind of look and see who we're lacking in, and then we'll kind of adjust from there. All right, so before we take a look at any of these lineups, let's look at our exposures. Patrick Mahomes, we have 81% exposure to. Kelce, we have 57%. McCaffrey, we have 53%. Pacheco, 52%. So right there, like our top 4 guys, we have the top 4 exposure to. The Chiefs D, we have a good amount of exposure there. That's McCaffrey and the captain at 53%. We might want to bump him down a bit, like to get more of that Kelce exposure, but we got 25% Kelce captain exposure. One thing that we can do too, Spread, if we're only doing like 20 lineups, what we can do is we can just narrow it down and look at all the Kelce captain lineups that we like first and kind of favorite those as we want to. But
Okay.
let's see. Anything that you see here, we got 31% use check. I like that. I don't know what your thoughts are there. We have 33% Rice. For me, that might be a little bit high, but like if you have a lean on Kansas City, maybe you're comfortable there. Spread, what do you think on that 33% Rice?
That seems right. I like
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. 31% Richie James.
That's the one that surprised me.
Okay. And we didn't even adjust his projection either. Like that's given us based on his projection. Now, if you don't like Richie James, we could bump him down a bit to get less exposure to him when we run it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one that we
I
gotta
only
keep
see
in
3
mind.
here right now, but a lot of 5-1s. Maybe we bumped the Chiefs too high.
Yeah, what do you think of Kittle at 17%? I personally I'd prefer more Kittle.
Yeah, let's bump him up.
Okay, so Kittle we got to bump up. I only see 9% Deebo, and Aiyuk has been taken out of our player pool basically by what his current projection is. But let's see, Deebo and Kittle seem a little bit low as far as the exposure for me. You want to go ahead and bump those guys up?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So let's see. Kittle we got at 12. Maybe we bump him. You're comfortable with the Rice ownership. Let's bump Kittle to 14.
Yes, I was going to say too.
Okay. And Deebo.
17.5.
Yeah, let's try 17.5. That's good. Now, McCaffrey at 50% in the captain or whatever we saw him at. Do we want to bump him down a little bit maybe?
No.
Okay.
I was okay with it. Were you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like, 'cause, I mean, we can always pick and choose the McCaffrey captain lineups we want anyway. So now Elijah Mitchell.
There's a McCaffrey captain lineup that wins and a Chiefs win too.
Yeah, that's true.
Where he does everything and the Chiefs win 34-27 and they're balanced. So
cool. So let's look at who was the other guy? Richie James. We had too much exposure to, right?
yeah, drop him.
Let's bump him down to. We'll bump him down to 1 point. Just 1 point. Let's see what that does for us. All right, I'm going to run this build again. I have a feeling that'll give us more use check. So let's see where the optimizer takes us on that. Doing these projections to get a good balance based on where spread thinks that the game is going to go with Kansas City, and I liked what we had on those first 4 guys, the top guys for us on that last build, and we see that we still have Mahomes, Kelce, Pacheco, and McCaffrey at the top. We got Kittle up to 45%.
Mm-hmm.
We got use check stayed the same. He's still about 35%. Deebo bumped up to 23%. Let's see.
Richard James dropped to 17%, which I'm much more comfortable with.
Okay, yeah. So let's scan through some of these lineups then, Spread, and see if we have any that look good to you. So if we look at the
one
first
is
one,
good, but boy, I'd rather run a 4-2 there.
Yeah. Let's see. Now, one thing that we can do here, Spread, is we can make a rule, a build rule, because if we don't want to have 5-1 builds, we can put.
What do you think? We don't.
I'm kind of with you because I think that San Francisco's got too many weapons to do a 5-1. Yeah, I think at the very least we want to have at least two 49ers.
Okay.
So I think it makes sense to kind of force in at least two 49ers per lineup, and we can see what that does. If it makes us uncomfortable with our exposures, once we do that, we can always adjust.
All
But
right,
let's
let's see
let's
what happens there.
yeah, let's see what it does for us. So it's building 150 lineups here, and we'll kind of go through that and then kind of pick and choose what we like. But yeah, I'm with spread. I think 5-1 builds in favor of the city. I mean that'll get you different, but like, I just think that there's too many weapons on San Francisco's side to justify
I just
that.
think the blowout script happens less than 10% of the time.
Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
think those showdown slates we did had such a greater blowout possibility during the regular season.
Yeah. So okay, so the first lineup that we have here, we got McCaffrey as the captain, we got Juszczyk and Kittle, and then we got the Chiefs.
I like that lineup.
Yeah, cool. So let's put that one as a favorite.
Okay.
You got your Chiefs D there, and now this lineup makes some sense because it's saying basically the game is relatively close. We got Mahomes having success to Kelce, but obviously not enough success to get one of those guys in the captain because McCaffrey is basically running the show for San Francisco. Juszczyk, I don't know how much I like Juszczyk being in there with a McCaffrey captain, just because Juszczyk is probably going to take a touchdown
Yeah, I was
to get
noticing
in
that.
there.
We're getting Juszczyk and McCaffrey in both builds to start.
Yeah, yeah, I like him better in this build because it's keeping McCaffrey out of the captain spot because
Yeah,
Juszczyk
yeah.
scores a touchdown, but McCaffrey can obviously still put up points. But like this doesn't necessarily kill me either because McCaffrey could be getting all the PPR points too. So it not a preferred way to go, but it is like viable, and I think a lot of people are going to be shying away from Juszczyk in a McCaffrey captain lineup anyway. So that makes us
Good
a little
point.
bit different there.
Great point.
So this one, Pacheco and the captain, Mahomes to Kelce. We got the Chiefs D, which correlates well with Pacheco and the captain. And then the only guys performing on San Francisco are McCaffrey and Juszczyk.
Hmm.
That one makes a lot of sense to me. What do you think there, Spread?
I like it. I like number three even more.
Number three, we got Kelce and the captain. We got Ray McLeod and McCaffrey as our 49ers. We got Mahomes and obviously the correlation there with Kelce and then Pacheco and the Chiefs D. So yeah, I like that. I like that build too. And that's one where we could take out Ray McLeod if we wanted to and put in a guy like Richie James or something if you lean there and you wanted that 5-1 build. But what do you like about Ray in this game Spread?
I mean, basically at that point, you're dumpster diving, and any of these guys, all they need is one big play there,
Yeah.
and you're going to get there. And we've ended the correlation with juice check because I think the reason that people will shy away from it is it seems tougher for both those guys to get there. Where this one, it seems a little more plausible.
Yeah.
Ray's got a big play on the outside, and then McCaffrey's doing the work in the backfield.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I like that. So this number 4, we have McCaffrey. We got Juszczyk in there again, and we got Deebo. So it's basically, three guys that are going to get all the backfield touches. And then on the Kansas City side, we got Mahomes, Pacheco, and the Chiefs. So not really, not really sure I like that lineup. That's
I
probably
don't
one that
either. I would swap Pacheco and Kelce if we did that.
yeah. Let's see if we swap. Do we have that lineup already? Was that our first lineup?
No, because
Oh,
we
that
didn't
was
have
Kittle.
one with three. That's a 3-3.
Gotcha. So let's do that. Let's swap out Pacheco for Kelce. See if we can do that.
No, we can't. You have to make a
No.
bunch of changes.
Yeah. So we just don't
Okay.
favorite that one. McCaffrey to Juszczyk, and then we got Mahomes, Kelce, Pacheco, and Watson. That one doesn't kill me.
We're getting
Like
too much juice check.
yeah, too much Juszczyk.
Which don't
Cool.
you think? I mean, he's in our
Yeah,
top five right so far. We should probably drop
yeah.
him. and
All right,
run
let's
around.
bump him. Let's bump him down a little bit. Let's bump him. Oh, he's got 2.54 projection. Bump him down to 2, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, bump him down to 2. Build one more, and then we'll just skip over the ones that we're getting a little bit too much use check. We'll just skip over those,
Okay.
and we'll just try to pick out just the ones basically that we like the most from a Chiefs win perspective, that make the most like from a game script perspective. And this is like one thing with when you do it this way, you're
You're still
basically
on the top one.
yeah, the top
Still
one.
getting a lot of them. Where is he at still?
Let's see, use check.
Still at 32%.
Now that's a thing that is noteworthy too, spread, because when the optimizer is trying to force a guy in like that, like that's something that, like, even if you're lowering it and it's still forcing it in, that means it's a really good value on him, and it's probably something that I wouldn't want to fight, especially considering I like use check, but
Okay, well,
like,
let's leave it here then. We tried to adjust it and it's telling us, right? So
yeah,
we'll listen.
exactly. It's like telling us that we need to consider him a little bit more there. This one, did we look at this one? Pacheco, Chiefs D, Kelce, Mahomes. I like this lineup a lot. What do you
Yeah, I
think of
like
that
that
lineup?
one. Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Let's see. Let's see if we can find one of your favorites here. Spread. What do you think of this one? McCaffrey, McLeod. We got Mahomes to Kelce and Rice, and then we got the Chiefs D.
I think that one's good.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
We got McCaffrey and McLeod, and we got Mahomes to Kelce, Pacheco, and Valdez
I like
Scantling.
that one even better.
Yeah. See, this is what I like about optimizers is normally it would take us like probably if you're doing it by hand, it takes you about like 5-10 minutes to build one. This way you're just sifting through the ones that you like. You've kind of optimized it so that it's going along with your game script based on how you adjust the projections, and you're starting to get lineups that kind of like key in more with your vision of the game. This one, number 6, we got McCaffrey, Juszczyk, and Samuel, Mahomes, Pacheco, and Chiefs. I think that's the one that we didn't like before, right, Spread?
Right. Yeah, I froze up again, so I'm not scrolling with you. Give me
Oh,
one
okay,
second. I think it's about to come back. But read off the next one.
cool. We got
Okay, yeah,
next
no, I'm
one.
back live. Okay.
Cool. Next one is number 7. We got McCaffrey, Juszczyk. We got Mahomes, Kelce, Pacheco, and Watson.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Okay. Just throw that one in there. And then we got Kittle and McCaffrey. This is
I
and
like
then we
this
got,
one a lot.
yeah, I like that one a lot too.
Yeah.
Yep, that works in Richie James, who is going to have a low ownership.
Yeah.
We got Kelce and the captain in this one, McCaffrey and Juszczyk. We got Mahomes to Rice and Kelce, and then the Chiefs D on that one.
It's good.
Yeah, I kind of like that one too. This
I
one we
like
got.
these Kittle McCaffrey ones so much better though.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I like Kittle a lot. We got McCaffrey and Kittle. We got Mahomes to Kelce.
It costs
We got
you Pacheco, but
yeah.
you know,
Let's see, and then Chiefs D. What do you think of this one? Would you favorite that one?
start. I mean, we're gonna have to get away from that. But yeah, it seems that like if you want Kittle, well, here's one with Pacheco. So if you want Kittle, you can't have Pacheco, Kelce, Mahomes. Is what the optimizer's showing you.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think in those lineups, I mean, obviously you can swap out, one of these guys for Kelce, or one of the earlier lineups that we have. We have a bunch of good ones that have all three of those guys, but maybe not necessarily like Kittle or something.
Yeah.
So, this is a pretty good build too. Let's see.
That's
That
an
was
interesting one, number
yeah,
12, because there's no Mahomes. I think that's the first one we came up with no Mahomes.
yeah, I like that.
You do like it?
I like.
It just seems hard to see those four getting there without Mahomes being in the lineup. How does that happen? If
So
Rice, James, and Kelce all get there.
I think that happens if it's like these guys are getting receptions, And then Pacheco is, like maybe running in for the most part. Maybe Kelce scores
Yeah,
one
I guess that would
touchdown.
have to be it. Pacheco gets 3 TDs on the ground, and there's no passing touchdowns.
Yeah,
But still, it just seems hard for those other guys to get there
yeah,
without
yeah.
catching a touchdown.
No,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that one. It just, I don't know. It seems
Let's
hard to
see.
have 3 pass catchers and no quarterback.
Well, let's unstart. Let's
Yeah.
see if we can. As we scroll down, we find others with no
See, because I
quarterbacks.
like 13 a lot better.
Let's see. We got Kelce. Yeah, this
Yeah.
this one's really good.
Hmm.
We got McCaffrey and Juszczyk. We got Mahomes to Kelce. And we got Pacheco. I love that lineup.
Yeah.
That's like a great Kelce lineup right there. I think that lineup would also be chalky,
Uh-huh.
but like I don't mind it
I don't
because
think so. That Juszczyk McCaffrey combination. Well, I guess unless people are just running the optimizers and he's jamming it in there.
yeah,
But I just don't think people are going to play that combination. Because I'll tell
yeah,
you what, I was even a little wary of it to start.
yeah. So yeah, it makes sense. Like this one, all for the rest of it, just the correlation is great in this lineup. I love that lineup.
Yeah.
Here's one where we got Kittle and McCaffrey. We got Mahomes to Kelce. So we got Mahomes, Kelce, Kittle, and McCaffrey. Chiefs D and
I
Kadarius
like
Toney.
that one.
That's
That's my
pretty good.
favorite one we've seen so far.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And you can swap out Tony for like if you
I
wanted
like
to.
having Tony in there.
Yeah, yeah. Those are your options if you did want to swap. But I like him in there too. Spread, especially like keep an eye on the news though. Make sure that he's going to be active. He probably will, but just keep an eye on the news for some of these guys like Sky Moore. We don't know necessarily that he's going to be active on game day. He's been activated from the IR, and we don't know guys like Hardman, Sky Moore. They got a lot of these scrubby receivers. We don't know which ones are going to be taking up a roster spot come Sunday. So keep a close eye on that because McKinnon is likely to be back from IR too. So something definitely want to pay attention to. This one we got McCaffrey and Juszczyk. We got Noah Gray, Pacheco, Kelce, and Mahomes. That's an interesting one, Spread. What do you think that?
Yeah, I like him. We got so many McCaffrey captains here. I
Yeah,
do like that as like a pivot, but I feel
yeah,
like we have too many McCaffrey captains in the 4-2.
yeah. And that's not one of our favorite McCaffrey captains, so we can leave that out.
Uh-uh.
This one we got McCaffrey and Kittle, and then we got this is one without
Mahomes
Mahomes that
again.
makes some sense because we got Pacheco and the captain, and then we got Kelce and Rice with the PPR points, and then we got McCaffrey and Kittle in there
Yeah.
with no Gray. That makes a little bit more sense, but what do you think their spread?
Boy, I almost feel like if you could leave Mahomes out, you should be on a 3-3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, how do Rice, Kelsey, and Gray all get there and Mahomes isn't in the optimal?
Yeah. If this one, I wonder if we could get Samuel in there over him. Nah, I think you'd have to go to basically a kicker.
Yeah.
Let's see. So let's go to the next one here. Look at a few more of these spread and just kind of
See, that's an interesting one. A 4-2 with the Chiefs captain?
yeah.
That's some things that the optimizer would spit out that I would never even think of. What do you think of just that general build? The idea that you're going to run a captain but only have one other player on that side?
That's one of my favorite moves to do in Showdown
Hmm.
is if you think a guy is going to do like Christian McCaffrey as captain in a 5-1 build would be interesting,
Yeah.
Like so I mean that those are the type of things that you can do to get a little different and I always like doing that especially in games like this where we don't necessarily need one of the quarterbacks in there. Like if we're thinking that it's going to be kind of, maybe the quarterbacks are scoring 18 DraftKings points, but we're getting a lot of PPR points and a lot of running back usage. So I think a lineup like this makes some sense. The only thing that I don't like is I think I'd like it more if it was only one receiver on the San Francisco side. and then maybe we bump up McLeod to like a kicker or something like that, and maybe get a defense in here, as opposed to like having two receivers. So it'd be like maybe the kicker, maybe Butker and San Francisco defense or something like that, in addition to Deebo, or some sort of adjustment like that. I think would make more sense. What do you think there, Spread?
Yeah, that's still so counterintuitive to me, but I can
Yeah,
see, especially in a game like this,
yeah.
all the equations going around my head. I can see where you're coming from there.
Let's see. So let's go. Let's look at this one. I'm sure we're going to start to see ones as we go lower here that we think are really interesting. So this
This one
Pacheco,
is this is
yeah,
great. A nice 3-3, an even game. It comes down to the last drive, and you have Mahomes. Um,
and we got use check.
yeah,
See, here's another 3-3 where we got Deebo, use check, and McCaffrey, and then we got Kelce, Pacheco, and the Chiefs D. So no quarterback in that one, but it's a realistic one because we only have like one receiver on each side.
that game. If you want the alt under, that's the one you want, right? If
Yeah,
the game goes under 37 points or under 35 points, that's going to be a great lineup.
yeah, for sure. Let's kind of let's speed through some of these other
I
ones.
would
Let's see.
star 19 actually.
19. Okay.
Yeah, I like
Let's do
it
that.
for the under script.
See, we got Mahomes, Kelsey, Chiefs D,
I
Kittle.
love that one.
You like that one too?
Hmm.
Start that one. Let's see. Okay, we got a 4-2 San Francisco build with Kittle and the captain, with McCaffrey, Deebo. I would want Brock Purdy in this lineup though. I think maybe over Samuel.
Same thing. We talk about how do Samuel and McCaffrey and and Kittle all get there without Purdy being in there.
So Purdy is 10K. So we can't quite get there. We need another $600, but that's something that we
I would
could we
take
could
Kelsey out
Kelsey.
and put Purdy in there and run a 5-1.
There we go. Purdy for Kelsey. Yeah, I like that build too. I think actually like Jordan and I yesterday when we were building, we kind of came to this lineup like naturally.
Yeah, I like that lineup.
So that's a good one. This one we got Mahomes. We got Kittle and McCaffrey, which we've talked about. We like. We got Mahomes to Kelsey, Valdez-Scantling, and Gray. So maybe a little too many pass catchers in there. But what do you think there, Spread?
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'll take it.
Let's scroll down to some of these Kittle captains or
Okay.
Kelsey captains. So we got McCaffrey, Kittle, Ray. We got Pacheco, Rice, and Kelsey. I think that one probably needs
You
a
got to
quarterback.
pair. You got to right. I mean, we've done this all year. I think Kelsey and Mahomes are that stack you need if you want to
Yeah,
run a Kelsey captain.
yeah, I think you're
How
right.
does he get there and Mahomes doesn't? I mean, he's the only one who catches the pass. I
Right.
guess it's plausible, but
Yeah. This one we got another Kittle and McCaffrey with Kelsey, Pacheco, Chiefs, and Valdez-Scantling. I like this one a lot better than those other ones that we saw with no Mahomes in it, with this many
yeah,
pass catchers. I think it's just more realistic.
yeah. That has to be an under for that to get there, though.
Yeah. Yep. So here's another
I
Kittle
like this one
captain.
better.
Yeah. Deebo, Kittle. We got Mahomes, Pacheco. This one, Mahomes is just outscoring Brock. So I think it makes sense too. Like even though we have two pass catchers for San Francisco, it just happens that Mahomes like outscores Brock. That's what this is basically saying.
Yeah,
Brock's not having a bad game, but he's just getting outscored by Mahomes. Mahomes maybe rushed in a touchdown or two, and that's what justifies like Mahomes in there naked. So I like that a decent amount. What do you think of that one, Spread?
yeah, I like that one a lot.
Let's see. Oh, we got a Pacheco one here. Mahomes to Kelsey, Butker and Pacheco. We got McCaffrey and Ray in there. I like
Great,
that
that
one.
one's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
start that one for sure.
So Kelce to Mahomes, like we got McCaffrey,
Yep.
Kittle, and Juszczyk. That's a good one too. What do you think their spread?
Yeah, we're coming with some good lineups here.
Yeah, so I mean, this is basically just an exercise that you can do with lineups to kind of get an idea of the direction that you want to go. You always got to fiddle with those projections though to kind of get the groupings that you want, and also you kind of play around with the rules and stuff. When you go further into it, you can create groups, and you can get into build rules and stuff like that to narrow down what exactly you want in the makeups of your lineups. But I think basically what Spread and I have done here that we haven't done on the past couple shows that I've done for the Super Bowl is, first of all, we've taken a Kansas City wins approach, and we've been able to just kind of mass produce some of these lineups through the lineup optimizer to kind of give you guys an idea of manipulating the optimizer, and also giving you guys some options for lineups to use based on the projected game script that Spread here has here for like a Kansas City potential win. So, what any final thoughts, Spread, by you on the game, or anything that you wanted to, any props that you like, or anything you wanted to mention?
No, I think we did a great job of finding these lineups, and I thought this was a fun exercise in identifying how to use an optimizer, and don't just run it and accept it. Run it, see what it's spitting out, and then make some adjustments based on what you're not seeing, what you are potentially seeing here, because we saw right now that it's going to jam some of these lower price players in there
Yep.
in order to get all the players that you want up top, and you got to be careful on that. So you're not stuck with like 40% Richie James or whatever. I think you want to distribute those long shots. I think you want to distribute them a little more evenly.
Yeah, and one cool thing about this, all these lineups that we liked, you can see our makeup of our player pool, how it is now with our favorite lineups.
Hmm.
Patrick Mahomes, 86%. Chiefs defense, 62%. Travis Kelce, 57%. McCaffrey captain, 52%, etc. You just kind of go through that list. If it's not exactly the makeup that you want, you can take lineups out and add lineups back in till you get the makeup that you like as far as the distribution of ownership. And it's a fun process. I mean, you can spend hours doing it basically. Like, so, make sure to do this maybe the day before the Super Bowl or a couple days before the Super Bowl. Give yourself plenty of time, and then like tweak it the day of the Super Bowl. So always just be prepared so that you're not scrambling to do this, because this is a time consuming process, and like it's going to take some practice to get used to and stuff like that. So if you want to mess with an optimizer, there you go, and hit that like button. Looking for 20 likes to put out a shorter video when we get closer to the Super Bowl. Hit the subscribe button. Almost there with 500 subscribers. Just need a few more. Spread. Where can they find your work, and what do you have in the pipeline here?
At Spread Astaire on social media, and as the NFL winds down, the NBA is picking up. So follow me for the NBA winners.
Awesome. And then Spread and I will be doing some best ball shows for NFL big board shows. Very early look at what we think we like for the upcoming season. So those will be fun to do, and look forward to seeing you guys back with some of these shows coming up. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the alerts on those, and follow Spread over on Twitter. Follow Heatseeker Sports at Heatseeker Sports over there too. And I will see you guys with the next show tomorrow. Thanks. Let's see, did it end the recording?